Hello, Tim here, and welcome to another of my painting critique videos. In this video, I'll be reviewing the paintings from the attendees of my November workshop where we painted the River Lisle at Mussidan in southwest France. In this video, I'll be offering constructive feedback on each of your paintings. My critiques are based on my own perspective. I'll be highlighting aspects I admire most about each piece. I'll suggest a small tweak or improvement just to help you refine your skills even further. Remember, of course, we are all here to learn and grow together to improve our watercolor skills. Now, please bear in mind, as we see the attendees' paintings, the color and lighting, the resolution in the photo may not be exactly correct because everyone's got different cameras and lighting conditions. And as regards the styles that we see as well of the attendees' paintings, you don't need to paint in my particular style. It's really interesting to see everyone else's take on the same scene. And the workshops are open to painters of all levels, beginners and advanced. Everybody is welcome. So if you want to take part in future events, you can see all of the up and coming events and also previous events, which you can still take part in and get a critique from me at crowdcast.io/@Tim First of all, my source photo for the workshop, as I say, this is Mussidan, the River Lisle in southwest France. We're looking in approximately a southwest direction. Midsummer, the evening sun setting there over there in the distance. The river is flowing west towards Bordeaux area, but this is the largest town of Mussidan and a beautiful bridge and a very dramatic sky. So this was going to be one of the focuses of the painting workshop, is trying to capture the drama of that sky, those clouds. And also, if I just zoom in a little bit more, also, if you can try and do it in watercolor, how can you paint those rays of sunlight piercing through the gaps in the clouds? So yeah, quite a dramatic sky. Then coming a little bit lower down, we've got this fairly wide bridge going over the river. The main part of the town is over there on the left, a few simple buildings to deal with. A tiny bit of perspective on that left-hand side there with the kind of raised wall there, that retaining wall there on that left-hand side of the bank, that angle, the angle of the bridge as well. Coming down to the river itself, no real reflections to deal with, but we do have this floating vegetation to try and capture in the painting. So lots of lights and darks in there. Beyond the bridge through the arches, we can just see a little bit of light, a few little lines of horizontal lines of light. Then coming to the foreground, we've got this massive lump of sort of floating vegetation, quite an attractive wildflower growing there, that purple flower, building on the right-hand side, framing that right-hand side, some distant trees. But this foliage here, this floating foliage, how would you depict that in watercolor? And there's slight little sort of depressions and mounds, and then that darkness as it comes to the water's edge. Down the bottom right-hand corner, you've got a tiny little bit of this side of the shoreline, and then the drama of the sky reflected in the water with those slightly softer edges of those clouds. But again, that light and dark. So quite an attractive scene to paint in watercolor. I'll go through my painting first of all, give you a little bit of a rundown on my feelings on my own effort, and then we'll go through the attendee paintings one by one. Fairly happy with my effort. I think I got the composition right with the level of the horizon around about there. Perspective, sort of okay with the top of the wall along the side of the river and then the water's edge as well, the level of the bridge, making that sort of almost horizontal. The drama of the clouds, obviously we used wet in wet for that. Had a bit of fun with the clouds, trying to get in different colours into those clouds as well. Now, I think I overdid the rays. There's a couple of ways of painting these rays of sunlight in watercolor. So you could, of course, use a lifting off technique, or using wet in wet, going in darker in the darker areas while the paper is still damp, and then you're giving that kind of difference there between the darkness and the lightness. You could use a little bit of lifting off as well, trying to make it brighter towards where the area of the light is coming from, and a harder edge and then a softer edge going further down. My second technique was to use white gouache, and I think that worked in a few places, but my gouache was contaminated with a little bit of alizarin crimson or something, some sort of reddish paint. If I just zoom in there, and you can see like that line there is all right. That line there is all right, but these over here, they've gone a little bit dirty, a little bit messy, so not ideal. But I think I'm fairly close to getting the feeling of those rays of sunlight coming through that main gap up there. Then the vegetation floating across the river in the foreground, and those sort of water lily pads or whatever they were in the middle of the river. The wildflower there, trying to make the lightness contrast with a little bit of darkness, with the trees and so on the right hand side of the river bank. And then these reflections, they came out all right. The reflections, again, wet in wet technique used a lot. And then that shadow, hard edge along the shadow of the floating vegetation, and then that little beach in the bottom right hand corner. So as I go through the attendees' paintings one by one, I'll spend a minute or two on each one. What I'm going to be looking at is composition from that source photo, the perspective. As I say, there wasn't an awful lot of perspective to challenge us. Then the painting of that sky. Did we get the drama in? Did we get those rays in? Convincing colours of the hard and soft landscape, the colour of the buildings, then the convincing greens of the foliage, the reflections in the water, and finally a little bit of creativity. Have you put your own stamp on that scene? So first up then is Allah. Nice composition. The perspective is very good. You've gone a little bit narrower on that wall on the left-hand side. I don't think we need to also define these dark lines here, Allah. I think you don't need that on those buildings over there, or the lines are quite strong. Make them a little bit lighter, a little bit softer. Skies come out really well. Your rays, they're very good indeed. Lovely rays. And then the reflections in the water, that's brilliant. Beautiful. You've actually got quite a lot of space there in that bottom left-hand corner for those reflections. The foliage has come out really well. You really do feel the texture of the greenery there. And then those wildflowers as well. Maybe could have been a little bit brighter. Yeah, it's turned out really well. Thanks very much, Allah. And Amy. Nice composition. With the perspective, maybe we're angling down here on this left-hand side just a little bit too much. I think that could have been a tiny bit flatter, tiny bit more horizontal on that side. The skies come out really well. Good rays as well. The colour of the buildings, you've gone a little bit darker with those buildings. That's all right. I suppose it's late in the day. We get a little bit of a darker colour. Maybe not typically the colour of the French buildings, but it's all right. Good job with the arches. Sort of said the other aspect of the painting was trying to get those arches right, and not necessarily painting every single arch, but trying to make them convincing and symmetrical, trying to get a nice curve to those arches. So let's go back to Alice. So Alice, yeah, that turned out all right. And also you've got the perspective as well, with the left-hand side being slightly further away from us than the right-hand side. So arch is good. Arch is good here as well. The vegetation, the water, yes, very good. Perhaps the reflections could be just a little bit darker. The foliage coming over the river, yes, very good. Love your wildflowers there. You've got the dampness of the soil on the river's bank here. That's come out well also. Yeah, a nice painting. Thanks very much, Amy. And Andrew, now I think Andrew's photo is a little bit dark. I bet Andrew's painting is a lot brighter than this. Good composition. Perspective is brilliant. Andrew's included a kayak or a canoe going, flowing down the river. Probably the easiest way to go, Andrew. Andrew was recently on our Patreon doing his Boatember theme and painting a different type of boat every month, which we enjoyed seeing on Patreon. But yeah, nice inclusion of the boat. That's perfectly placed, actually, that boat. Yes, perspective good. The arch of the bridge, brilliant. Sky, very nice indeed. Not so sure about some of the rays. I like that bit of yellow that's in the sky. That introduces another interesting element to it. Maybe this line here, not so sure about that. And there's a little bit of a curve on that one. But on the whole, lovely sky. Reflection of the sky, very nice indeed. I would try and get in some softer edges to those clouds, Andrew, just in a certain place there. But it looks good. And then the foliage coming over. Perhaps you could have a little bit of a darker edge to the shadow, the light coming almost towards us, so a little bit of a darker edge to that foliage. Yeah, well done. Thanks, and nice inclusion of the boat there. To continue Boatember theme. Right, Anna. Very bold, a nice bright, colourful painting. Your horizon's probably gone down a little bit lower than on mine, tiny bit lower. The skies come out. I love the shape of those clouds sort of curving around like that. Paintings always look nicer as well when they're mounted like this. So good job on the clouds. Not so sure you like me. Maybe a little bit too thick with the white gouache paint there. Maybe a little bit overdone. But on the whole, it is perhaps those white shapes are just a little bit too bright. Maybe less of them would have made that appear a little bit better. Good color of the buildings. The perspective is all right. We're leaning a little bit too much on that left-hand side, but it's nearly there. The greenery of the foliage coming over on the right-hand side, like it. Perhaps we could have had a few more these little blobs there. Perhaps just a few more of those coming towards us just to create the texture of that floating foliage. Lovely reflection of the sky. And then the wildflowers, they come out really well also. Yeah, nice one. Thanks, Hannah. And Barb. Good composition. You've got probably more of the town appearing on that left-hand side. I think that works well, actually. A bit more of the buildings from the right-hand side creeping in and a bit more of the town on the left-hand side. That sky is really good. You've got a little bit of rays coming in, a few little rays coming in there. That's fine. Yeah, so really good sky. Good job with the perspective. The arches are brilliant. The reflections in the water, that's come out really well, actually. I like it. Yeah. Those lines there. We haven't got that sort of green of the floating water lilies, whatever, in the middle of the river. Do like these reflected lines coming down there. The kind of reflection of the arches, the supports, the central supports the bridge. The foliage coming over from the right, really good. And then the continuation reflection of the sky, very good as well. Again, like Andrew's, I probably would have gone for some softer edges to some of the shapes of the clouds there. But nice brushwork, lovely composition, and you've also included some cars and vehicles on the left-hand side. Well done. All right, so that's Bob and Betty. Nice composition. Not so sure about the perspective. Looks like we're going downhill a little bit too much, Betty, on that left-hand side there. And also maybe I would think try and make the top of the bridge aligned with, on the left-hand side, the top of the wall. But you've got the arches in well. Lovely sky, the way that you've done that sky, a few light touches. You've put a little bit more detail into the church tower there. That's come out really well. I love your trees also. A spiky bush, very colourful. It's a lovely bush there. I think your photo might be just a little bit out of focus, but we can see what's going on. Nice foliage coming in from the right-hand side and good reflections as well. Yeah, very lively. Thanks very much, Betty. And Bev. Nice composition. I think on the perspective, we might be coming downhill a little bit with that bridge. If that bridge was a little bit more horizontal, the top of it, certainly. The bottom might come down a little bit, might be sloping down a little bit to the bottom right-hand side. But yeah, just try and make that a little bit more level. Beautiful sky. You haven't bothered with those rays, doesn't matter. That's a lovely sky. And then the colour of the buildings, very nice indeed. That's a very realistic colour for those buildings and the bridge. The vegetation coming out here over the river, yep, very nice indeed. And those reflections as well. Possibly try and get into some softer reflections. Try and make those reflections a little bit softer than the objects they are reflected, trying to get that feeling of the water surface. Nice wildflowers over there on the right hand side as well. Yeah, do like that sky. Well done, Bev. And Bob. Well, I can immediately see these. How many boats we got? 1, 2, 3, 4 boats. Yep, well done on changing the scene a little bit and introducing those boats. Nice composition. You've made the bridge with 3 arches. That's all right, and you've introduced some steps over there on that right-hand side, coming down to maybe a little bit of the right-hand side of the shore. Over on the left-hand side, we've got more of a sort of chateau coming on over here, over there, which would be very appropriate for the area. Lots of chateaus in that area. Nice sky, very good rays as well. That's a beautiful scene. I do like those boats, though. Those boats have come out really well. Really good idea to have those boats, little sort of shallow boats like that, nestling along the shore, and a nice way of sort of that foliage coming over, and then before we hit the water, we've got those boats. Particularly like that back one. Those boats are done really well. So that's Bob. That's Bob L. Have we got 2 Bobs? No, only 1 Bob. Right, Bronwin. Very nice indeed. Nice composition. Well done with the perspective of the left-hand side of the town and the bridge. The arches have come out really well also. The sky, I would say with the sky, trying to see where the edge of the paper is. I would try and take that paint over the edge of the paper like you might have done in the top left-hand corner. Yeah, the sky's all right. Very, very dramatic. The reflection of the sky also very good as well. With the foliage coming, the floating vegetation coming over from the right, that's all right. I think we could have had a bit of a harder or darker shadows along the edge here that's facing us, Bronwin, just to try and connect that a little bit more with the water. I like this kind of darker mark going across there. That's a nice element, obviously reflecting those vertical lines in the wall on the left-hand side. Yeah, very nice. Well done, Bronwin. and Ching. Nice composition. A little bit like Betty's. I think we might be leaning down a little bit too much on that left-hand side there, Ching. But on the whole, very good. Nice, strong, horizontal line for the top of the wall and the top of the bridge. Sky, very good also. Like me, might have overdone it with the white gouache, but we're nearly there with the sunlight, the rays coming through. The reflection in the water, bottom left-hand corner, very nice indeed. Like the way that you've done these little lily pads, these little sort of leaves of the floating vegetation coming out beyond the main clump, sort of coming out onto the water there. Nice, a nice way of putting that darker line there, just to give it more of a three-dimensional look. Yeah, well done, Ching. What else can I say? Nice floating vegetation on the right. Yeah, we just got a bit of a lean there. But apart from that, lovely painting. Do like that sky though. Christy. Nice composition. The perspective, brilliant. I really like the way that you've got that kind of a dry brush mark going across there, rather than, there were some railings, weren't there, over on that side, and rather than obviously painting in every single railing, the way that you've done that and the way you've done the railings on top of the bridge, brilliant. Lovely colour of the buildings and the bridge. Sky, very nice. Not so sure about these rays going in slightly different directions. I'd have to check the source photo. Maybe you're right, Christy, but you haven't overdone it. And I think the rays that are there, they come out really well. Lovely reflection of the sky in the water, and very nice floating vegetation coming in from the right-hand side. I like the way that you've done your wildflower as well with that. The consistency of your watercolor, you've gone a little bit more watery with that, a little bit more water to pigment ratio, and you've got some really nice effects of those wildflowers there. Well done, Christy. Colin. We've got a couple of Collins. So Colin W. Right. Nice composition. That sky is very dramatic. Those sorts of the yellows and the blues and the shapes of those clouds, very nice indeed. The perspective is very good. The colour of the buildings, brilliant. The arches, very nice as well. Now the clouds, I think we need to have a softer edge to some of those clouds, Colin. So you've got hard edges there. Try and make them a little bit softer. Like you got, well, a little bit in that bottom right-hand corner. That's sort of almost there. Nice vegetation coming over from the right. Nice pattern to those lines as well. A little bit weak on the flowers there. It's a little bit too transparent, and then we've got a bit of the bank showing through behind. So maybe could have gone a little bit thicker with those flowers, or mix a little bit of white gouache with it just to get that brightness back. But a lovely scene. I do like that sky, and lovely rays as well. Those rays are super. Now I think, I think Colin's actually used the sort of lifting off technique, which is a little bit more difficult than using the white gouache, and that's come out really well, Colin. Those rays. Well done. Nice sky. Thanks, Colin. And then another Colin. Colin 1 and Colin 2. So good composition. Perspective, very good indeed. Nice sky. You haven't bothered with those rays. Doesn't need it, but lovely sky. The river, the reflection of that sky, also very good as well. Lovely soft edges. Vegetation coming over from the right-hand side. Nice green. Perhaps with some of the shadows within the greenery, try and get more of a hard and soft edge to some of those, to try and get the feeling of the depressions as we're going over that surface. but on the whole, really good. Nice colour of the buildings as well. Yeah, well done, Colin. Thanks very much indeed. And David D. So, nice composition. Good job with the perspective. You've gone for that kind of a strong horizontal line there. Nice sky. Not so sure about these rays, these three rays here, David. I wouldn't have bothered with those. With the reflections, possibly could have gone for a darker line on that far side just to define that left-hand water's edge just a little bit more. But the actual reflection of the sky down here in the foreground, brilliant. The vegetation coming over, perhaps you could have gone a little bit brighter with that greenery. The greenery of the greens that you've got in those trees, that is really good. But maybe if you'd have gone a little bit brighter, whatever you used up there, David, go a little bit brighter. The green here is a bit too weak. And then also these flowers, try and get a hard edge around the flower petals of the wild flowers there. Yeah, lovely sky though. Very nice sky with that cloud formation. Thanks, David and Diane. Very dramatic sky. You've got lots of hard edges in that sky, so not necessarily wet in wet. The rays have come out as well. You've used looks like you've used that lifting off technique. That's come out really well. Emanating from the right place. The perspective, very good indeed. I like the way that you've done in the middle of the river, that floating, the water lilies or whatever they were, that are lying flat on the surface. The bridge has come out really well. Those arches are superbly drawn. Very nicely done. Very, very good. And then the colours, the sort of subtle variation of colours that you've got into the vegetation on the floating vegetation that's coming from the right, like that. And then a bit of soft edges down here, bit of red there, yellowy greens, cooler greens up here. Nice reflections of the clouds in the water. I think it would have down here, perhaps a few softer edges down here, Diane, that would work a little bit better. Yeah, lovely sky though, fantastic. And Fazia, nice composition. I do like that sky. The way that you've done that sky, Fazia, this sort of very loose shapes and exploiting the transparency of watercolor, that yellow down there just above the bridge, very nice indeed. And then the color of the background trees, they are brilliant. Sort of warmer greens on that left hand side, cooler, darker greens on the right hand side with the different types of trees. Not so sure about the way that you've done the buildings on the left hand side. I'm not sure if it looks too convincing as buildings. But then coming down into the water, nice reflection of the water. I personally wouldn't have used these dry brush marks, doesn't need it. I think without that, it would have looked a little bit better. And then a similar sort of start where you've done that foliage. That looks lovely. Yeah, a lot of soft edges in this and really exploiting lots of different colours. And I do like the way that your bunch of flowers have come out. Very pretty. That red there is beautiful. That pink and that darker red, fantastic. But then all these sort of shapes that the watercolour has made here. Cauliflowers appearing, blooms, soft edges, hard edges. Very nice. Well done, Fazia. Let's go on to the next one. Right, Jim. Nice composition. Good job with the perspective. Sky, you've gone for a brighter sky, but you've still used that wet in wet technique, I can see. The vegetation floating, the vegetation coming in from the right, very good as well. Perhaps you could have gone a little bit stronger with these wildflowers here, but that green is perfect. Gone a little bit grey with the buildings. Maybe you could have gone a bit warmer, a bit more of that sort of colour. I think would have been a little bit more authentic to the area, Jim. But going back to the river, nice middle of the river there. The reflections have come out really well. Also, perhaps you could have gone a little tiny bit darker with the reflection of the clouds. And the shoreline in the bottom right-hand corner. Yeah, lovely. Buildings on the left-hand side. Yeah, they look all right as well. Not so sure about that left-hand building there. Perhaps the rooftop needs to go a little bit angled like that, just to make the perspective a little bit better on some of those buildings. Very nice indeed. Thanks very much, Jim. Do like that sky. Let's get rid of my drawing tool. All right, on to the next one. Joe. Nicely framed or mounted. Oh, it looks like a piece of wood or something. Yes, looks very nice. A lively scene. Good composition. Perspective, very good. Maybe those arches are just a little bit too high, but they are symmetrical for sure. The sky is very nice indeed. Good shape to those clouds. Perhaps you could have got a few more softer edges in there, Joe, with some of those clouds. And then likewise, the reflections of the clouds in the river. Perhaps we could have had a few more softer edges to those. I like the strong lines of the foliage coming in from the right-hand side. Very strong, nice and bold. Perhaps we could have gone a little bit darker with the water's edge here, just to define that edge a bit more. And those wildflowers there, I think they would be better placed. Just move them over to the left just a little bit more. Maybe bring them closer to us as well. But lovely sky. Well done with the edges on top of the rooftops as well, going soft on that. A nice mixture of hard and soft edges. Thanks so much, Joe. And Kazim, very nice indeed. Nice composition. I think your horizon might be just a little bit lower than mine. That sky has come out really well. And you've used I think you've used that lifting off technique to get the rays of the sun, the sunlight raised in there. That's come out really well. Yeah, beautiful sky. The perspective is fantastic. Lovely reflections of the clouds in the river. Nice foliage coming over from the right-hand side. And you've gone sort of like a warmer green over on the right-hand side and a cooler, lighter green down here. Yeah, you've certainly got the feeling of the texture and the mounds of foliage there. And these wildflowers, they've turned out really well. Nice. They stand out quite well, don't they? The lighter flowers against the darker background. Yeah, beautiful painting. Really well done. Thanks very much, Kazim. And Lauren, a nice bright painting. Your bridge, I'm immediately drawn to the bridge and also the detail over there on the left-hand side with those. I don't think I noticed that from the original source photo, those steps coming down there and then that lower level of, maybe that's where boats get moored up perhaps, and then those railings down there. Yeah, nice attention to detail. Works really well. So nice composition, perspective very good, the arches brilliant, sky very nice indeed. You haven't bothered with those rays. On the right-hand side, very nice. The foliage coming in from the right-hand side. Good job with the reflections. With these flowers, I think they've got a little bit of lightness within the stalks. Perhaps to try and connect that clump of flowers with the ground. Perhaps a little bit more shadow in the base there. But on the whole, they're really nice. Yes, a beautiful scene. But I do like that whole area there, Lauren. That's beautifully done. The way that you've got that, just the right level of detail into that bridge, the steps coming down, and then that darkness, the dark reflections of the wall and the bridge there, and that the water lilies coming down the middle of the river. Very nice. Thanks, Lauren. And Leslie. Nice composition. Just be careful of the top of the church spire, just touching that top edge. I think it would look better probably if it was well over the top, or maybe just stops a little bit below the top of that, just below the top edge. Nice sky though. Good job with the perspective. It's quite a light painting, quite a soft painting. I like the style. Perhaps you could have gone a little bit darker with the reflections, but they've come out really well with those edges down there. Really nice. The foliage on the right-hand side could have gone maybe a little bit stronger with the greens, possibly. Leslie, what do you think? Just to bring them a little bit closer to us, because the value of those greens there, closest to us, is sort of similar to those background trees. Those background trees, that's just the right sort of green you want. That pushes them way back there beyond the bridge. But yeah, maybe could have gone a little bit brighter with those greens here. But a lovely scene. Yeah, well done with that sky. Thanks very much, Leslie. And Liliana. Nice composition. I think we might have a little bit of a lean on the way the photo was taken. Nice sky. The more I look at these opaque rays of the sunshine, the more I would prefer the lifting off technique. I think those like me, Liliana, your white gouache might be a little bit bluer. Maybe it's been contaminated with a little bit of blue, possibly. But on the whole, there's a lovely sky, very dramatic sky, nice shape of those clouds. The perspective is all right, possibly a little bit too steep on that left-hand side, but certainly the water's edge looks brilliant. Lovely bridge. The reflections of the clouds in the river, very nice indeed. The flowers, they've come out really well with the lightness against the dark beyond within the arch, and then the foliage coming over the right-hand side. Possibly your photo. I bet your photo is a little bit darker than the actual live painting. I bet your painting is a lot brighter than this. But very dramatic. Love it. Well done, Liliana and Marilyn. Nice composition. Bold and bright. Sky's really good. A little bit like Liliana, a little bit too dark with the opaque rays there. So if they were a little bit lighter, like Liliana, I think that would stand out better. But putting that aside, beautiful sky, nice wet in wet technique, well done with the perspective. The river looks really nice indeed with these little thin strokes, foliage coming on the right-hand side. Perhaps you could have gone a little bit more bold with the the wildflower here. It looks a little bit too perfectly symmetrical. Perhaps it could be a little bit more natural looking, but it looks fairly good to me. Could have gone a little bit lighter with the flowers. Nice reflections of the clouds in the water. But that sky is fantastic. Really nice. And it's always difficult, isn't it, in the sky, mixing the yellows with the blues without getting a green colour. You've done really well there. Thanks so much, Marilyn. And Mark. Right, nice composition. Certainly we're exploiting the wet in wet here. Beautiful sky, all sorts of colours going on in there, lots of warms and cools. Perspective is pretty good. Arches, very good as well. I think with the water, you've gone quite dark with that. Maybe if there was some lightness in there, mark, it would just add an extra dimension to it. But you're quite dark with the vegetation in the middle there. And I'm not sure if it's your photo, the darkness of the photo, or the darkness of the painting. The foliage on the right-hand side, that's come out really well. Nice, warm green to that. Nice definition of the edge as well. I quite like also the way that you've done these lines. Nice element to it. These lines coming out. So continuing that sort of radiating pattern of these darker shadows within that foliage. Yeah, so maybe just a little bit more light, but very well done with the sky. Very dramatic indeed. It looks like you've got nice paper as well. Right, thanks very much, Mark. Nidia. Right, so good composition. Well done with the perspective. I think your photo is a little bit darker than your painting, your live painting. Good job with the sky. Not so sure about these thinner lines here. Doesn't need it. I wouldn't have bothered with those, but that sky is really nice indeed. The bridge, yeah, try and get your arches symmetrical, and also maybe some of them are a little bit too wide. You're starting off quite rightly, starting off fairly narrow there. But as we go over, don't make them, I wouldn't make them so wide as you've got there. I do like the way that you've got the light beyond the bridge. That's come out really well. Nice reflections in the water. Foliage coming over, the floating foliage coming over. Very nice indeed. The texture that you've got in there, Nidia, and the mixture of hard and soft edges, like here, for example, that hard edge there. We really do feel that just in that position there, the foliage sort of dips down into a little hollow, a little depression, and then it reappears here. We've got a bit of a higher mound of vegetation. So that's really well done, the way that you've accomplished that with the brush marks, and down this edge as well. Brilliant. Nice reflection of the clouds in the water. Perhaps with some of these lines here coming down, if they were made just a little bit more horizontal, we'd have more of the feeling of the level of the water. I think they might be sloping down just a little bit too much, Nidia. But a beautiful scene. A really, good job on that foliage. Paul. Let me just zoom in. There we are. Can I zoom in a bit more? Yeah, we can. Right. So maybe a low resolution photo of the painting, but we can see what's going on quite clearly. So nice composition. That sky is very nice indeed. I like the way that you've got little specks, little blobs of light appearing on that left-hand side. Then on the right-hand side, it's all a bit more mysterious and misty. So a nice sort of contrast between the two. I like you haven't gone for rays as such, but it looks like there's some kind of opaquish covering to the clouds there. That's come out really well also. Perspective, very good. Arch is all right. Just watch with the height of that arch just being a little bit too high there. River, very good. Nice reflections in the water. And then the vegetation coming over. You've moved those wildflowers down in the bottom right-hand corner. That fills in that bottom right-hand corner very well indeed. Yeah, lovely, Pole. And hopefully I pronounced your name right. And that cloud over there. Fantastic. I like the way that you've applied that on top of the harder edges below. Come out really well. Whoops. Go to Sandra's. Nearly missed it. I think it must be the file type where I got this motion here. I'm not click on that. But anyway, so we've got a nice composition to this. I like the shape of your clouds. That's kind of circular shape coming around there. Lovely job on that, Sandra. And then the perspective is very good indeed. We've got, like Barb included, some cars. You've got a car up there and a figure as well. Well done. So buildings, bridge come out really well. The vegetation could have gone a little bit deeper with the green of the vegetation, I reckon. Lovely soft edges of those clouds. Well done. Bottom right-hand corner here could have been a bit warmer to try and make that sort of muddy, sandy shoreline there just a little bit warmer, standing out a bit more. But really good job on the foliage coming over from the right-hand side, and that sky and those rays. You've used the lifting off technique. That's come out really well also. Beautiful shape of those clouds though. Well done, Sandra. And Vicente, very nice indeed. Lovely sky. You got a similar technique to Fazia. Nice sort of brush shape, brush marks, and shapes those clouds, exploiting the transparency of watercolor. Lots of different colors going on in that sky. Warms and cools. We've got the rays in there. Loose way in which you've done the tan on the left-hand side. Perspective is good. The bridge, I would try and make the edges just a little bit harder, but on the whole, you've got those 4 arches done really well. Like a few others, the cloud reflections in the water, try and get some soft edges in there. And like Fazia's, that lovely foliage coming in from the right-hand side. Lots of different colours going on in there, warms and cools. A sort of patchwork of different colours and edges as well. Yeah, a very nice watercolour. Thanks very much, Vicente. Right, well, that's the last one. If you'd like to take part in the next workshop, where we're going to be painting the Plaza de Oriente in central Madrid by the Royal Palace, that will be in December. You'll catch that up on my event site, crowdcast.io/@Tim Wilmot. Love to see you, but thanks very much for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed all of those paintings. Please pop into comments any that you particularly liked and that you would like to praise. Always good to see your feedback. But thanks very much, and catch up with you on the next video, which will hopefully be a tutorial. Thanks very much indeed. Bye-bye.